Welcome back, baseball fans. 1972-75 carryover league. We are at the All-Star break, and we are transitioning to the next part of our season, kind of explaining how our season works here. This is a setup overview that I've had up for previous years to show that there are three parts of the season that I play every year. Regular season up till the All-Star break, and then we have after the All-Star break we have a postseason tournament that I call Race to the Pennant, and then after that it is the playoffs in three stages, lasting over various lengths. So we'll update this. This is 72 to 75. This year's carryover league began around St. Patrick's Day. July 16th is the Major League All-Star game, and my All-Star game will be posted right around the same time. So I'll kind of go through all these little areas here of how they all work. So part one, the regular season, I guess you can call it. Never actually gave it a name. But it's 6 rounds. And the rounds look like this. Each round, a team will play a rival or someone else in their league, or go across interleague play. The green shade means it's interdivision battles. The red means American League division rivals are playing. Blue means National League division rivals are playing. And yellow means interleague. We also can determine in interleague that this is the American League East, and they have played the National League West. The American League North is here. They play the National League Mountain Time Zone. American League Midwest, they play the National League North, two of the best divisions in the league. American League West play the National League East. And half the teams home and away, of course. So the way the schedule is set up, in the first round, it's all across divisions. In the last round, it's all in divisions. And in the middle 4, you get one of each. And within a division, you get a divisional battle. You go across a division, and you go across the league. And you do that in the 4 sections in the middle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The games, the quantity of games in each one, your divisional games are best of 7s. And you have 3 of those. The minimum you would play is 4 if you sweep or get swept. The most you would play is 7 if it goes the full distance. You have 2 league battles, which are best of 5s. Minimum is a 3-game sweep. 5 is taking it to the limit. And the 1 interleague battle is a best of 3 rubber match. You either win 2 straight for a sweep, or it's a best of 3. When you multiply the number of these matchups times the maximum number of games, you come up with a min and max right here. Minimum number of games you could possibly play, if everything is a sweep the whole time, is 20. Maximum number, if you go the distance, every single series, you could play 34. So we're going to put an average at 27 in the middle there, between 20 and 34, general average. For a 32-team league, it means that this is games expected. I'll highlight this as well. It's an important number there. Games expected is 432. Now, historically, since 2020, when I started broadcasting, this is the number of games played at the All-Star break each year. So it's an abundance over 5% is what this is. Make that percentage. And this shows overages And in 2020, 443 games, 2.5% over what I thought I would play. Playing all these games, 457, 5.8%, 460. Then last year it dropped to 439, and then it went back up to 451. This is a lot of this is simply because of the fluctuations in team cards used. I can kind of explain why, because I use the 1969 cards. Right now we're using 72 to 75 here, and we use 71 there. Well, we use the 70 cards and the 1969 cards in here. I'll actually put the early year there, 69 and 70. And these two particular card sets had more players, extra players, because they were reissues, than in the 71, 72, and onward. The 71 set, of course, is the very first set of advanced cards that Strat printed. Very first set, 71, before they had E-rating and so forth. They were in this. They had a light blue print to them, 71 and 72. Then it changed to a dark blue in 73. Any event, in each of the 4 years, though, it is greater than the average. So that is successful in my eyes, meaning that the league is more competitive because the series are running longer. Running longer, meaning you need more games to play to decide series. It's not a David and Goliath matchup, which is, would be the opposite. Let's say you're only playing 400 games because half your league is great and half your league is awful. So they match up so much, you get sweeps all the time. You don't want that. So we're showing that we run over, and this year we're running 4.4% over at 451, which is, I'm pretty happy with this number because the 72 card set, 1972 is kind of a weak year in Major League Baseball. There was a strike. They missed about 8 games or something like that. 73 is like a correction year, Major League Baseball. They added the designated hitter, and those cards are pretty hot. So I expect next year, 73, 4, 5, and 6, to go up again. Much like here, it went up 443, 457, 460, 439, 451. I'm expecting next year I might be playing 455, 400 to 65 games for the All-Star break to show the level of competition. Okay, so that's great for getting to standings. So let's just go to standings then, and we'll come back to the next part of our schedule. Take a look at the standings. And when we do that, we'll start in the American League East and work our way to the National League West. I have some numbers at the bottom of each of the divisions. This number here is what happened in interleague play, which is a net of 0. This is what happened cross-divisional play, a -2. And, of course, that's a net of -2. American League is at -2. And Toronto, in a down year for the American League East, caught the Red Sox at the break. They were 4 games back. No, excuse me, they were 2 games back, and now they're 2 games up at the All-Star break. Orioles, just a game over, a game and a half back. They snuck into second place. Boston in third, and the Yankees in fourth. The Yankees had a terrible year. American League North, really the worst division. They battled the Mountain Time Zone. So you're going to see that as a 0 and a 0. And if you go across here and here, you'll see it again, 0 and 0. So those 4 divisions just washed in interleague play, making the math kind of convenient. But this division, when they played outside, they got hammered, -9 against other American League foes to a -9, mostly because Ohio had such a terrible start to their season. Cleveland underachieved. And the Tigers, who went to the World Series a year ago, are a half game better than the Expos. This could go any way, of course, with a record of 16-13. These are the current seeds right now as well. The Expos actually would be on the way out with a .536 percentage. We'll go to the Midwest. They also washed in interleague play against the North, right there. They're +4 against the rest of the American League for a net of 4 games over 500 because of the great play of Kansas City and the White Sox, separated by just a game. When they played in the regular season, the Royals won a best-of-7, 4-3. And both teams are looking at probable playoff positions. I think the White Sox and Royals are worst-case scenario wild card there. And the American League West, we are in the time of the dynasty Oakland A's. No-brainer there. They are sitting at number 1 right now, 19-8, mostly because they've been cleaning up on their own division. They also took 4 out of 5 against the Rangers, and then the Rangers cleaned up against everybody else. So the Rangers actually have a pretty good record at 15-11. They're playing .577 ball, and it's reasonable to believe that they might get a wild card. Actually, right now, they would be sitting at the 6. We'll give them a 6, even though these all change. This is just where we're sitting at now. They'd be sitting at 6. And now let's go to the National League. In the National League, Mets have an easy schedule because they fumbled last year, missed the playoffs altogether. So this is what usually happens in sport. You're bad one year, you get an easy schedule the next year, and you take the elevator back up top. Mets are a game and a half ahead of the Braves, who won this division a year ago. The Phillies made the wild card a year ago, but this year reality set in. They just maybe they got lucky last year, and they're just not quite. They don't have all the players they would need by the mid to late 70s when they won the National League East many times. They're not quite there yet. Marlins always get a nod as playing with the toughest possible scenario. 3 quality baseball teams ahead of them, and they're an expansion team trying to figure it out. I mean, at least Toronto, by 77, they actually will have their own players. So it's really weird that the Blue Jays are winning now with extra players from other teams, but that's what's happening. Best division in the league is National League North right here. And the Pirates nipped the Cubs at the break to finish in a tie. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker, +1, but the 2 teams will meet in the race to the pennant in the first round, and that will be a best-of-7, and we'll show you more about that. The Reds are just hanging there. They're fine. They are hanging there because all these teams, they all wish they were playing 600 ball, or at least the Pirates and Reds certainly think they should be playing 600 ball. The reality is it's just so much competition in this division. That's why the Cardinals' record is so poor. The only cross-divisional is a +3 for the National League, and that's reflected by an overall +6 for the National League, 232, 226, plus 3 more wins and 3 fewer losses. American League, 219, 225. The crazy Mountain Time Zone just finished in a virtual dead heat. This is going to be a crazy way of deciding who wins this thing. A half game separating all 4 teams. That is going to be nuts. And the National League West, it really has been the Giants the whole time, while the other teams have kind of, particularly the Dodgers, have been dismal. Padres rallied late. Houston faded late. But this looks like it's the Giants division to Rome. 615 percentage. I think that's still tops. Okay, so that's where the standings are. So now let's go back to that setup and say what we're doing next. We're doing the Race to the Pennant tournament. It's a postseason tournament that continues from now until the middle of August, usually. The purpose of this tournament is to get to a playoff field of 12 teams. And the way we look at it is setting up 3 rounds of scenarios of best-of-7, best-of-5s, and best-of-3. And the theory goes, imagine if these were the last 7 games of the season in the first round of the tournament. So you have up to 7, that's why I have a U there, up to 7 games to distinguish. the second place team from the first place team, and the fourth place team from the third place team. And the point of that is to just see if we can get some separation at the top and at the bottom. The fourth, this is eliminate. That's why I was wondering where that word was there. Left there. The point is to eliminate 8 fourth-place teams in this round. So at the end of the first round of the tournament, Race to the Pennant, 7 games, up to 7 games are played for a purpose of eliminating the 8 fourth-place teams from the schedule and finding a clear number 1. Then in the second round of the tournament, we're going to play up to 5 games. I have friendly here, meaning that the number 1 teams across divisions will play up to 5 games for seeding purposes at that point. You could still fall out of first place, and if you're in second place, you could still ascend to first place. It's all still up through this competition. But the ones play each other across division, and all the third place teams will visit a second place team across division. And when you're looking at the division that you'd play, it would be the division you did not play in the first 6 series. We can check that out right here. So let's take the American League East up here. The American League East played the American League Midwest, and they also played the American League North. That means the American League East will be playing the American League West in the second round of the tournament, and the Midwest will be playing the North. East versus West, and in the National League it should be the same thing. Here's the National League West. They play the National League North, and they played the Midwestern Division. I mean the Mountain Division. So the National League West will play the National League East, and the 2 middle divisions will play each other. That will happen in the second round of the tournament. And then the purpose of that is to eliminate 8 of the third place teams, but you could technically eliminate a second place team in certain divisions that are worse than third place teams in other divisions. The point is that you want to go from 32 teams down to 24 teams down to 16 teams. At this point, now we just have 8 teams in each league. So the 8th and 5th place team and the 7th and 6th place team will meet in up to 3 games. And when that is done, hopefully the 8th and the 7th will be eliminated, and then we'll be down to 6 teams in each league. That's 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. What that usually does, Section 1 and Section 2, the regular season and the Race to the Pennant, is approximately 580 to 600 games. The Race to the Pennant is about 120 games, and I played, like I said, 451. You add that together, you get about 570. 451 I've played, plus this number here. This will turn to 570, right in the wheelhouse of that. And then after that, the final situation is, of course, your playoffs. I'll be playing this during Labor Day weekend, but the broadcasts will be up through the month of September and early October during football season. But I usually get this, I try and wrap it up by Labor Day or right before the NFL's football season starts, because I follow that, and usually I want to close down the Strat-O-Matic at that point. So the playoffs are 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. The wild card round is a best of 5. The divisional round is a best of 7, but this is interesting here. I use the NBA 2-2-1-1-1. This is home away format that the NBA uses. I use that to give the number 1 and number 2 seeds 3 of the first 5 games at home, because the 2-3-2 format of conventional baseball does not allow for that. So this is an extra sort of level of protection I give the number 1 and number 2 seeds, that they get 3 of the first 5 games at home by using the NBA format. In the divisional round only. Then the League Championship Series is just a straightforward best of 7 and the World Series. That's all straight ahead, just like Major League Baseball. The postseason is usually about 80 games. When you add up everything here and that, 660 games is pretty close to what I play for a season, a carryover league season. And with that, we can look at stats, and we can look at the schedule for the postseason tournament. Let's look at the postseason tournament schedule. And I have that right here. Let's start. The first thing I do is I go for the 7-game division titles. And again, this does not clinch anything. It just tries to gain more separation. And so this is how we follow this. The first and second place teams will be represented in each division here, beginning with the American League East through the National League West. Now, home and away is simply the opposite of what they played in the regular season. So the games behind are going to be on either side of the ledger here, because you don't get home field just because you're in first place. You only get home field if you didn't have it already. So there's going to be a number of who won their first meeting and by how many games in here. And that will be a computation of what needs to happen in the up to 7 round. So Toronto will go to Baltimore. Now the Blue Jays are up by a game and a half, but Baltimore beat Toronto 4 games to 2. So they're +2 in a tiebreaker. If you finish tied or within a half a game, you can use a tiebreaker to get an 8th game in the up to 7. In this particular instance, Baltimore can qualify for that. You see, if the Baltimore wins 4 games to 3, they'd still be a half game back, but it would add to their net head-to-head. And if you win, a team needs to have head-to-head and be ahead in the standings. And in this case, Toronto would not have head-to-head. So there would be a game 8. Baltimore would have to win that one as well and win 5-3. If Baltimore does that, then they are a half game ahead, and they have the tiebreaker because they would be +4 in the tiebreaker. So we see this happen a lot in the American League with different results games behind. The Expos, unfortunately, they're only a half game back of Detroit. But a simple best of 7 puts them a half game ahead, but they don't have the tiebreaker because Detroit is +1. They'd be tied. So they would need one more game to be played. The Expos would have to win 5 of 8. White Sox, similar scenario. They are one full game back. So in a best of 7, if they win 4 games to 3, they'd be tied in the standings, and they'd also be tied head-to-head. So they would need simply one more game to be played. So the White Sox would, in that case, have to win 5 of 8, meaning that everything would be tied. They'd be tied head-to-head. They'd be tied in the overall standings, but they still then have to play with a tiebreaker. Again, this is just to get. This does not clinch the divisions for anybody. Just the first round of the postseason tournament. All right, the Rangers and A's. The A's are +3 head-to-head. Unfortunately, the Rangers are 3.5 games back. Unfortunately, that means that if they win 5 of 7, they'd still be a half game back. But because Oakland already beat them 3 games, the net is 0. So they would need a 6th game. They'd have to go win 6 of 8. So Oakland, and that's because Oakland, beat them pretty handily, 4 games to 1. Next series, Atlanta and the Mets. The Braves are a game and a half back. And they have a +1. So this is very similar to these 5-3s up here. Atlanta wins 4 games to 3. They're a half game behind, but they have the head-to-head, so they get to play a game 8. Cubs Pirates are in a dead heat right now. but the Pirates won the first meeting and they're a game ahead. Well, this actually works out to a perfect best of 7, because if the Cubs win that 4-3, the two teams head-to-head will be equal, but the Cubs will be a game up in the standings. So that's why that's a best of 7. Vegas and Portland. Portland is a half game back, but Vegas is a +3. So again, you need to win 5-3. And Giants Padres, this is a little disappointing for the Padres, because winning 5 of 7 for the Padres puts them a half game ahead. But check it out, the Giants are +4. The Padres winning 5 of 7 still gives the Giants the head-to-head by +1, so that gives them another game for a tiebreaker, because they'd be a half game apart. So that's why the Padres have to go 6-2. Same situations work with the eliminations, thirds and fourths. Same scenarios here. That could be deleted. That was from a year ago. Yankees, Red Sox. Red Sox +4. They swept the Yankees 4 straight, and the Yankees are 3.5 games back, which means Yankees have to win 6 out of 7. Most of the time on the needs here in the third and fourth place teams, they're a lot more difficult to obtain for the fourth place club, because usually the fourth place clubs play a lot worse than the first place clubs play very good. I guess you could say it's easier to lose a lot than win a lot. So you get some really bad fourth place teams, and it's an uphill battle at this point. That's why the Yankees have played terribly. They need to win 6 of 7. Ohio's 4 back. They need to win 6 of 7. The Twins faded late. The Brewers beat them +2. Twins a game back. They got to win 5 of 3. Go 5-3. The Angels are 4 back of Seattle, who have a +2 tiebreaker. They got to go 6-1. Here's a relatively close one: Florida and Philadelphia. Florida is only half game back, and that's pretty good considering how handicapped the roster is. Winning 4-3 for Florida puts them a half game ahead, but Philadelphia would still have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so Florida have to need one more win, go 5-3. Cardinals just find themselves 5.5 games back, and that's just too much ground to make up. They got to win 7 out of 8. By the way, I might want to mention that in previous years, I've seen like 9-0. Some teams have had to win 9 games. And what I mean by that is I would allow any scenario for the worst team in the league to not be eliminated. So I would sit through a team attempting to win 9 straight games, which, of course, probably not going to happen. But at least it could be. If you need to win 10 or 11 or 12 in a row, I'd allow the games to continue to be played, though it would be highly unlikely a last-place team would suddenly win 12 in a row. Arizona and Colorado in a dead heat. They're tied. And Colorado can't take advantage of the 4-game sweep they did earlier this year, because if Arizona wins now 4-3, they're a full game ahead, and you can't use the tiebreaker. It's only 4 half-game or tied. So that's a simple best of 7. Dodgers and Houston. Boy, the Dodgers. This is the first 5-2 scenario on the list. And the way the math works here is the Dodgers find themselves just a game and a half back. 4-3, winning 4-3 puts the Dodgers still a half game back, and the Astros would still have the tiebreaker. So you go to the next possibility, which is 5-2. And if that happens, then the Dodgers would be a game and a half ahead. So Dodgers needing 5-2. So those are the scenarios of the postseason tournament for the first round. And then, of course, we can't compute the second and third rounds yet until we play the first round of 7 games. So next up, we can take a look at stats right now. We looked at the standings. We're not going to award the MVPs, Cy Youngs, and all that at this present time until we'll factor in the postseason tournament results, then post those awards before the playoffs begin. Here's a sort of batting average in the league, the Texas Rangers. You're wondering why did they do so well? They're hitting 297. Just a point ahead of the Pirates. There's your Kansas City Royals. That's why they're playing so well. Oakland A's, dangerous 280 hitting team, of course. The Big Red Machine, of course. The Cubs having a nice year. We know that. And at the bottom of the batting average sort, the Orioles hitting 238 perennially. Even the Giants, who are in first place, are down there, which is surprising. Red Sox just blew their, are blowing it down there, hitting 244. That's inexcusable. Homers, stolen bases in the next column. Don't see any outrageous outliers. I'm looking for 40 homers right now. I don't see any team with 40, so it's all pretty close, bunched together. Same with Ribby. I don't see anybody. The Cincinnati Reds have 175 RBIs, and the Pirates have 174. That's hardly surprising. So those two are probably the most potent offenses in the sport. Where's Oakland on that list? Now, Oakland has played fewer games, right? Because the Pirates and Reds have to keep playing more and more and more games. Oakland has only played minimal, lesser number. Stolen bases, who's got the speed in baseball? 25, 28, 29, 26. Yeah. It's good to see everybody has at least attempted one stolen base, including the Blue Jays with exactly one. Now the sort by earned run average, and the Toronto Blue Jays, that is why. You're wondering, how did Toronto get to the top of the American League East when they didn't exist? It's because they assembled themselves through clever drafting and trades, a good pitching staff, and they got a 293 earned run average. The Giants are winning out west with a bad offense and great pitching. Yankees are wasting a good pitching staff right there. Padres are surprisingly good. Look at their ERA is a little bit better than Oakland's. That's a rather surprising right there for the Padres. At the bottom, yeah, the Marlins are very fortunate to be just 4 under 500 and just a half game behind the Phillies because they're pitching terribly. 552. The Rockies typically always draft pitching last, 492. Angels just dismal. Cubs, now you're starting to see that they have a great one-loss record, but when they lose big, and their pitching suffers at 442. Playoff teams Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are down here with +4 earned run averages, but again, they beat each other up. They keep playing each other because they're on the schedule, and they score a lot of runs against each other, so you can't get a low earned run average. And lastly, let's look at some individual stats. American League. We talked about Kansas City's batting average a few moments ago. Lou Piniella is still in Kansas City, leading the American League in hitting at 386. 75 George Bretcard hitting 368, but they also have a free agent named Jim Dwyer, platoon player, hit 342. And Fran Healy's the catcher they got in the offseason hitting 333. So there's a reason why the Kansas City Royals are winning that division and the White Sox are chasing them. You're looking at potential all-stars. Tony Oliva might be the Twins representative, or Rod Carew might be. They'll probably just get one representative because they're in last place. Any Hall of Famers here in this list? Because usually, some guys creep in you've never seen before. Let's look for homers in double digits as we scroll down a little bit here. American League, do we not have anybody in double-digit home runs? There's a guy. Willie Horton. 11 homer, 30 RBI for Willie. And then the batting averages are going to dip down into the 200s down there. RBI, we got 25 for Dick Allen. The homers aren't there for Dick Allen, but he is producing. He's getting on base and he's driving in runs. Just not hitting a lot of home runs. Mayberry's got 28 Ribby. 29 for Jeff Burrows for the Rangers. That's why they're doing so well. And again, Willie Horton leads the league in home run RBI. He'll go to the All-Star game. He'll be on the MVP list somewhere. Probably won't win it. Stolen bases in the American League. Looks like Mickey Rivers. Yeah, he led the American League in stolen bases in 75. He's got 13. Angels are bad. He'll probably be their lone representative. Carew will probably be the Twins representative for the similar reason. Any other stolen base leaders in this column? Nothing really exciting. Pretty close stats, clustered, a tight cluster of stats. There's not outrageous outliers. Now in the National League, 2 Pirates battling for the batting title. Al Oliver hitting 371, Clemente hitting 351. Pretty much this is why they caught the Cubs for first place at the break. Johnny Bench has 11 homers and 32 RBIs and a 336 average. When he's not winning an MVP, something's weird. He's got 2 of them. Didn't win the MVP last year, but the 2 previous years he did. Stargell might be getting it this year with his best season in a long time. He's had some 220 seasons back-to-back. Now he's hitting 331 with 13 and 42. We have another slugger. Nate Colbert is going to be popping up here somewhere. There's Nate. This is why the Padres are doing so well. Nate Colbert is just tearing it up. 13 and 38 for Nate. Any other sluggers here? Looks like the biggest sluggers in the sport are in the National League. The first 3 were. And no 400 hitters, which is, for the timeline involved, it makes sense. 72, again, was a down year. The pitching seems to be ahead of the hitting this year. But normally we get a 400 hitter at the break. We don't have one. National League stolen bases look like they're down, looking for somebody in double digits in the National League. Bobby Tolan is 10 for Cincinnati. 14 stolen bases for Lou Brock, and he might be the Cardinals representative just because of that. Joe Morgan's got 16, but look at this. So the big deal in the offseason was to bring Joe Morgan from Houston to Cincinnati. And we noted in the offseason, if you followed it way back then, that Morgan finished 196 batting average last year for the Astros. So in a certain way, we considered, well, maybe that's why Houston wanted to move on from him. But, or at least I decided to use that tack in trying to, the results of these trades. So you have to come up with a new scenario and make the result and make the players involved a little bit different. But Morgan's struggling in his first year with the Big Red Machine with a 216 average at the All-Star break. Nothing else going on down there. Let's look at National League pitching. We see Jim Lonborg is on the Las Vegas expansion team doing quite well. This was with a season he had with the Brewers. 69 innings, 6-1 with a 1.69 ERA. I think that's gone to the All-Star game. And Don Sutton and the horrible run support this man gets. He has been brilliant yet again. His ERA was below 2 for most of the first half. In his last start, he went 9 2/3 innings and gave up 5 runs on 5 hits, 4 homers and a triple, and his ERA went above 2. The 206 with a 1-6 record. Unbelievable. There's Lefty, 7-2, 281 ERA. Some 6-game winners up here. Randy Jones for the Padres. You have to represent the teams that are playing well. Dodgers are wasting some quality pitching out of Sutton and Messersmith there. That's a real shame. I like to reward the top relief pitcher for innings pitch, and right now it looks like it's Diego Segui. If you look at the pitcher names here, you see the number. That's where in the rotation they are slotted, the number 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. So as soon as you get past that and you see the name Diego Segui, that means a relief pitcher has pitched 23 1/3 innings, and he's pitched to a 154 earned run average. He could very well be Florida's representative in the All-Star game. Bergmeier's right behind him, as is Orlando Pena. That's the Florida bullpen right there. Of the 3, Segui's been clearly better with a 154 ERA. Actually, looking at saves in this column, Pena's got 6. And you'll have Tom House of Atlanta. Hopefully he'll be in the All-Star game, I'm guessing, with 8 saves. Mostly because he's got a brilliant card. Tug McGraw has 7. Steve Mingori. This was a great move by the Astros. They had some of the worst left-handed pitching a year ago. And in the Joe Morgan deal that involved a multi-team trade, they acquired players from different organizations. They got Steve Mingori from Cleveland with a sub-2 ERA. to be their closer, and he's delivered. So the early winner, you could say, of the Joe Morgan trade is the Astros, at least statistically. Mingori's done a lot more than Joe Morgan at this point. Of course, we know the Reds will win that trade ultimately. Clay Carroll with 6 saves, 7 for Mike Marshall, who was on the Giants instead of the Dodgers. That's going to leave a mark on the Dodgers there. Here's Vegas finding this gentleman, Max Leon. He was an Atlanta Brave pitcher. They signed him to be their closer. He's got 90-cent ERA and 8 saves. He might be in the All-Star game. And lastly, let's finish up with the American League stats. Mike Torres is the only starter with a sub-2 ERA in the American League, but it's only in 41 innings because he's a number 4 starter. So sometimes that won't qualify you for an All-Star game. The guys who pitch a lot and often, Gaylord Perry, 79 innings, among the league leaders. Wilbur Wood will probably be here. His ERA might be high. There he is. There's Wood at 77. Kind of surprised Perry has more innings than Wood, because Wood's been pitching on 2 days rest a bit. Anyway, looking at wins and losses here, nothing really stands out until you get to this. Jerry Royce is +5, 5-0, the 2.69 ERA. For a first-place Toronto team, I think that'll make him an all-star. Ross Grimsley was signed by the Seattle Mariners and has been a nice pitching addition for them. Seattle's been reasonable. Not as good as Toronto, but reasonable. Still looking for someone with a great one-loss. Here is Kansas City's Roger Nelson. He is considered their ace, but notice you don't see an asterisk there. An asterisk indicates a pitcher can pitch on 3 days rest, and most aces or number 2s can. Roger Nelson cannot. So he's only got 60 2/3 innings. He's about 2 or 3 starts fewer than Wilbur Wood, but he's piled up a 6-1 mark and a 2.97 ERA. Kansas City's got a lot of statistically good players. We saw all those hitters earlier, and Roger Nelson and Marty Patton even. Not sure how many guys they'll send to the All-Star game. You know, there's a 25-man roster, and that's more players than I would normally use in our games that you see on YouTube. I only have 20-man rosters. 16 teams in a league. Everybody needs at least to send 1 player. So that means there's only 9 wild players out there, and they usually go to the first-place clubs. Here is a star right here, Catfish Hunter. 8-0, so that's your best record at the All-Star break. Now, the 3.36 ERA, a lot of times he's simply just left in a game that the A's are winning like 11-0, and final score is 11-4, 11-5, or whatever, and so that ERA will just get up there a little bit. I don't really care about that ERA when I see this. And in 67 innings means that, he's probably leaving games early too. No reason to leave him out there. But that's 8-0 is all-star material. 8 wins when you only have, how many games has Oakland played? Just to put it in perspective here. I can just page down for that. Yeah, the A's are 19-8, and Catfish Hunter is 8 of their 19 wins. He's won 8 of 27 games that they've played. So if you want to prorate this to 162 games, knock that 27 times 6, you see the dilemma there. You'd be doing the same with Catfish Hunter's victory total, and that'd be a little bit wild if he was a 30 or 40 game winner. So yeah. But that's what Catfish Hunter has been doing, tearing it up. Just a Burt Blylemon has pitched in horrible luck, just like Don Sutton, but his ERA is worse, but he's 0-7 for a Twin team that's just faded horribly. Looking at innings pitched in the American League for a reliever, and the first guy to come up after the 3s and 4s, well, there he is. Rich Gossage. He's got 24 2/3 innings. Andy Hassler's a number 4 starter. Mike Kekich is a 3. Gary Ryerson, Don Wilson, these are number 3 starters. He's almost got the same amount of innings at 24 2/3 as a closer. 2-0, 5 saves, 109 ERA. We think he'll be in the All-Star game. Usually the best long reliever gets in anyway. In this case, he's a long reliever / closer / Cy Young candidate, so he'll go in the All-Star game. Good to see Terry Forster on this list as well. He's doing fine this year after dismal seasons previously. 3-0, 279 ERA. White Sox got some good pitching right now. And let's see, top saves in the American League beyond 6. Well, of course, Raleigh Fingers. A perfect first half. No ERA. 10 saves. Probably 10 opportunities. Oh, he's got a win as well. Maybe more than that. I think if Hunter goes 8 innings and leaves, Fingers pitches the 9th, maybe. Let's see, Doug Bird for Kansas City. That makes sense. Bucket ERA, 7 saves for Doug Bird. In this column, like Fireman of the Year, Cy Young, MVP, but we're not going to award those now. We're going to say wait until right before the playoffs begin. 7 saves for Skip Lockwood on a decent Seattle team that's fighting, trying to fight, keep the above water. I'm really happy with the way generally all the expansion teams except for one have played. I'll look at that and before I do a wrap. We have the one division where half of the expansion teams are in their own division, and the reason is it means that at least one of the 8 expansion teams, or 25% of the expansion teams, will get a playoff spot. 1 out of 8, or 1 out of 1 out of 8. 8 of the 32 teams in the league are expansion teams. So a fourth of the league is expansion teams, and one of those 8 gets an automatic bid. And the other 4 are represented here, where the Marlins are just fighting as best they can to stay above water. And Toronto is succeeding into getting a second playoff spot. And then you have Seattle, trying their best. And then Ohio is the only team that's just really playing a rare blend of sloth and weakness. They're a bad team that's underachieving as well at 8-19. They're going for the first pick in the draft 2 years in a row. So that's it. We'll begin the race to the pennant. We'll start that schedule is that we do all of the first place and second place battles first, where nobody gets eliminated. These 8 battles will be done first. And then after that, we'll look at the standings after these first and second place teams play, because there is a scenario where a third and a fourth could play a series where both advance, and a second place team that plays really bad could sink all the way to last place and be eliminated. So the calculus of these 7-game eliminations may change, particularly in the Mountain Time Zone, because it's reasonable to assume here that when Vegas and Portland play, if this is a 4-game sweep by either team, this team would be 4 under 500. This team would be 3 under 500. That if this series goes 7 games, both these teams would be a game over 500 and a game under 500. That means the team that got swept up here would now be in 4th place and now be eliminated. So that's why we always play the first and second place teams first. Then we recalculate the needs of the 3rd and 4th place teams when they play, just to make sure we're indeed eliminating the 4th place team at the end of the round of 7 in that part of the tournament. And the reason that is done is there's no mathematical way a 4th place team could ever make the playoffs, because you get 4 division winners and 2 wild cards. So you can see let's say 4th, 5th, 6th, you see you can't get the Cardinals in the playoffs as well. There's no way that can happen. All right, thanks for checking out the league and the second half schedule and the All-Star game, and we'll be playing baseball soon, so stay tuned.